Ladies and gentlemen, the very word secrecy is repugnant in a free and open society. And we are, as a people, inherently and historically opposed to secret societies, to secret oaths, and to secret proceedings. For we are opposed around the world by a monolithic and ruthless conspiracy that relies primarily on covert means for expanding its sphere of influence, on infiltration instead of invasion, on subversion instead of elections, on intimidation instead of free choice. It is a system which has conscripted vast human and material resources into the building of a tightly knit, highly efficient machine that combines military, diplomatic, intelligence, economic, scientific, and political operations. Its preparations are concealed, not published. Its mistakes are buried, not headlined. I am asking your help in the tremendous task of informing and alerting the American people, confident that with your help, man will be what he was born to be, free and independent.
And that's that. We can stand up and fight and ride all day through the night. We can make this change right and see our hopes and our dreams come to fruition. It's time to unite as one, calling out to our founding fathers. This is our mission to make you
Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Humanity Awakened Radio. I'm one of your hosts, Brian Bolin, and with me as always is my co-host, Phil McNamara.
Hi everybody, how you doing?
And on this episode, we're going to be doing a review of the new Batman vs. Superman movie.
Yep. I went to go see it about a week ago.
And I went to go see it on Easter Sunday. And I gotta tell you, there were so many Illuminati occult undertones that we just had to do a special on this, a show just all about this, because there was just so much that happened in that movie. It needs to be talked about.
Absolutely.
So to start it off, the film was directed by Zack Snyder, who is known for having Illuminati type undertones in his films. His film Sucker Punch was literally all about MK Ultra. We have the very beginning where we show the father beating the women, his daughters, possibly having sexual relations with them, and we see this happening all kind of through a montage with the song going on. He comes home drunk, he's beating them, and we know that a lot of the MK Ultra victims at that time came from an abusive home environment, and that was so that their minds would be predisposed to the programming and the breaking, the fracturing of the mind into different alters. This is already starting at this point, so it would become easier for them to take on the programming. And throughout the movie, they follow the main character, Baby Doll, who she tries to kill her father, and then her father sends her to a mental insane asylum, basically, which is also kind of like this burlesque prostitute house. And the only way for the young girls to feel like they are safe is to escape in their heads and go into this mystical fairy tale land. And there's a lot of different interpretations on what this film's about online. However, this is my direct takeaway of it. And also, they're showing the films around the time of the 1950s too, which is also the time too when the MK Ultra experiments were going on.
Yeah.
So, and there's also lobotomies being done in the movie. I mean, it just reeks of MK Ultra programming in that movie.
Right. And it's funny because, I went to go see this Batman Superman movie, and I'm a huge fan of both of these characters. And I was a little disappointed because I hate the idea that they would have these two. And by the way, we're going to do spoilers, so if you haven't seen the movie yet, you might want to go see it first. But I was a little upset when I went to go see it because I hate the idea of these two characters actually battling each other.
Me too. There's a lot of conflict with that, and I think for a lot of people, we're trained, we're programmed, literally, from being children to see both these people as the good guys, and then we see them fighting each other. It's very conflicting on a soul level.
Yeah, on a personal level for me though, when I was a little boy, my mother used to tell me stories to get me to go to sleep about how Batman would come and save her. She'd make up these amazing stories, and I would just sit there with just my eyes wide and just wait for her. And I really believed as a child that my mother knew Batman. That's really the way, because she grew up in New York and stuff, and so New York and Gotham, and they're all the same. And I sort of got this whole image in my head of this hero, and Superman being, the hero that he is. And to watch these two characters sort of tear each other apart was extraordinarily difficult for me to get through. And I didn't really realize it at the time. And I mean, it's beautifully filmed and it's beautifully done, but the undertones of what they're discussing and what they're talking about in this film are really hard to deal with. We're sort of coming to a part of our consciousness where the idea of gurus and heroes is being questioned.
Exactly. And also too, there's like the Illuminati love to social engineer this concept of us looking for a savior, right, and worshiping false gods, false idols. This is a big part of this ritual practice on a humanity on this level of literally engaging humanity in a way where they don't even understand that they're being involved in this big massive ritual.
Right.
And by buying the tickets to go see this, we're kind of buying into that plan, but just by being aware of this stuff, it doesn't hit you the same way on a subconscious level. Like, I mean, when I came out of the theater, I was like, I was in such a state of shock after seeing this movie, and the whole time my jaw was just dropped and just in complete shock, just thinking to myself, wow, my God, like they are literally showing their entire religion and their viewpoint of how they look at the world in this movie.
Right.
And the way that they do that is this constant talk of alien is God, alien is God. They say that in the movie way more than 3 times, way more than any normal script would ever have some kind of repetitive sentence or statement being said. They're saying it, they build this up for the whole hour and a half of the movie. The first hour and a half was just all about this. They're having CNN debates. They even have Neil deGrasse Tyson on there saying that God is an alien, when he's like, it's just so polarized to even hear that, because he's the last person who would say that now.
Right, exactly.
And it was just weird to see that.
And, I've always said this, and I've said this several times on this show, is that, I'm a big believer in the notion that Superman ain't coming. Mm-hmm. And we have, as a race, got to save ourselves. Nobody's going to come down from the sky and save us, even though we want them to.
We want to believe so bad in a savior to save us on a soul level and the hero's journey level. And, part of their programming is to make us think that a savior is coming, or that medical doctors are the savior to save us against, what if we're ill, and that's giving our power away. And we, as long as they think that there's a savior, there's a good guy bigger than us, a power greater than ourselves. Not to say that there's not, a force out there in the universe that is God type energy. They want to make us believe that there's a physical savior that's going to come and save us, so that even if there is an evil Illuminati, we're going to be taken care of, and that savior is going to come and stop them, and blah, blah, blah. And like, as long as we believe that, they're going to win.
Exactly.
And we can't let that happen.
Right. And, in this movie, you have Batman, who is a man who used a tragedy in his life to begin the idea of becoming a vigilante.
Which, the tragedy in his life was very clear that it was reminiscent of like a 9/11 type of event.
Yeah.
Like the beginning of the movie, I just saw that the dust, he goes into the dust while everyone is walking away out of it. And it just reminds me of this footage, the building's collapsing. In the movie, the building collapses.
Yeah.
And he walks into the dust of the free fall of the building.
And understand that imagery right there, for the people that all of us that are alive today have seen that image of those buildings falling, and it reminds you on a subconscious level, oh yeah, remember 9/11, remember 9/11, remember 9/11? They're doing that. Yep.
That's totally when I saw that. So you felt that too.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, it was reliving that trauma in the movie. Yeah, so that's just the kickoff, almost like the fracturing of the mind of that.
Right.
For us on that level. Because we have to remember, 9/11 was a regardless of who did it and all that, like we have had trauma as a human race as a result of that.
Right, and that was done on purpose to instill,
Partly fracture the mind in that
fracture
level.
the mind, because the belief that now, the United States of America is no longer a safe place, and we need to be made safe by some force or some power or some group of people that, that's where that, and so we react to that viscerally, the way you would being attacked in a war or something. It's like almost like a physical injury. So when you see that imagery, and it was the very first thing
it's a spiritual and emotional response.
Yeah, exactly. And that's, and then on the other side you have Superman, who's this godlike being, and the real question in this movie was, how far does this god being need to go? How, he's got the ability to destroy the planet on his own, and yet he's using his powers for good, and they're constantly questioning whether or not he's going to go to the dark side or not. And so I've never heard that in a Superman movie before. They did do that in one of the Supermans with Christopher Reeve, where he had a split alter ego, and that being became, Dark Superman or whatever. But in this one, this is the actual being, and you have to, and it's a very interesting. It was a very interesting and very disturbing moment for me when I realized, what would you do if you had ultimate power? What would you do? Would you use it for good? Would you use it for good and evil? Would you go back and forth? What would drive you? What would be the one thing that would be your catalyst for you to become, evil super being?
And also, too, we have to revisit, and I think this might have gone over some people's heads. I mean, I know the Batman story so well. I've been watching. I've seen pretty much all the different renditions of Batman, all the way going back to the black and white versions of Batman.
Right.
And the story of Bruce Wayne's parents being killed at the beginning of the movie, and then he becomes a man. And then, for all of you who didn't know, the building that collapsed was actually one of Wayne Towers.
Right.
They mentioned that very briefly in the movie, and there were some loved ones inside of there that Bruce lost that day. So it was the second time that he had lost someone, and at this time he saw Superman, and he was trying to stop this, what kind of looked like an alien invasion of the city.
Right.
That imagery was in there as well.
Right.
But then he's pushing, he's trying to stop this thing, but at the same time he's going through breaking buildings. Like, that's what causes Wayne Towers to fall, is like him in his battle doing that. And finally, Bruce Wayne sees a moment of where he can take his power back and stop this vigilante, and somehow that will give him peace with the death of his parents.
Right.
And that's what spawns this whole obsession for Bruce Wayne as far as trying to stop Superman.
Right.
So I know that might have gone over a lot of people's heads, and so I wanted to make sure that was clear in the story. But keep in mind, this whole story of Batman vs. Superman is not what the movie's about.
Right.
It's not about that. So we're going to get into it right now.
Okay.
Here's some of the archetypes of what goes on. So Jesse Eisenberg's character, Lex Luthor, he's the bad guy in the film, he represents the Illuminati point of view that God is the bad guy.
Right.
And he constantly keeps saying how he wants to kill God by his hand.
Right.
And something even crazier there is that there's a moment in the film where Jesse Eisenberg slices his hand so that he can use his blood to bring back General Zod, is that his name? Who then becomes some kind of spawn of Lucifer.
Yeah.
And this is a big elite
the
obsession.
character's name is Apocalypse.
Is that who it becomes?
Yeah.
Okay, there you go, even more. So also too, this is this thing of like the elite's obsession with becoming godlike. And by Jesse Eisenberg slicing his hand and using his blood, Lucifer is part of his blood. Therefore, he is as strong or stronger than Lucifer. Lucifer, a god. He's become godlike in that moment.
And now he's going after the good God.
Mm-hmm. Because
so
he wants to be able to kill God. And that's the whole purpose of his role in that movie, which is like freaking crazy when you think about it. And this is not only what the Illuminati is trying to do on a spiritual level, but this physical level of actually killing the idea of God too. And I think that they've done a good job of that, of making this extremely materialistic society all worked around Satanism being
Right.
cool and trendy.
Right.
Do what thou wilt.
Yeah.
And I mean, the Kardashians are a great example of like of us transitioning to more of a satanic society without even really knowing it. I mean, look out for yourself. Like, don't screw everyone else. It's just you. That's all that matters.
Right. And and become more beautiful, become wealthier, become more powerful,
Materialism.
become all of these things, material, get more stuff.
Farther
more
away
stuff.
from spirituality.
And the further away you get from the spirituality, the closer to this God you will be, or this closer to what they want you to be. They want you to live in constant fear. They're always putting things out there. Again, it's the alien enemy. It's the extraterrestrial enemy, and they're trying to play this narrative out so that when we have disclosure and when this information comes out, everybody will be like, well, we don't want them to come here because they're scary and mean. And that's not true.
And then they won't be godlike.
They won't be godlike. And for certain points of view of spirituality, the idea of God is within man. And that we are part of this universe and we are part of God. So therefore we are God.
And I think it's a very appropriate that what Phil said, how the main character's name is the character from General Zod's body becomes Apocalypse.
Yeah.
Because you see this apocalyptic scene of Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman fighting Lucifer.
Right.
It's just very wild. And okay, so to move on from that, just to cover it again, because this is really, really, really important. There's a ritual that happens there. When Jesse Eisenberg is on the alien ship, he slices his hand to drop his blood on the dead body to bring Lucifer into this world. So in a sense, he's become godlike from bringing a god into this world from his hand. Literally.
Right.
Okay, so and then at the end of the movie where Lucifer kills God, which is Superman.
Right.
And granted, I understand at the end of the movie that, they're showing that Superman might not actually be dead.
Right.
But still, that imagery happened where Lucifer killed God.
I was sitting with a couple of friends of mine, and one of my friends actually started to cry.
It was a very emotional movie.
Yeah.
It was like I said, I was in a real state of shock, like a real state of shock. I know how people say that figuratively. I was literally in shock coming out of it.
And the other thing, the little piece that most people didn't realize is just the advent of having Wonder Woman in these films. And Wonder Woman being as powerful as she is also sort of harkens to the idea of the rise of the feminine.
That's interesting.
And I thought that was good because that's actually one of the good things. Just to put this out there, not all of the Illuminati are bad. Some of them are actually not bad at all. They're trying to, enlighten the world a little bit. But
that could be Zack Snyder too,
Yeah.
or someone else working on the film.
That may have been, but that was one of the things I took away from it, was that here comes Wonder Woman, and you don't really see powerful women, superhero characters depicted in the way that this character was, and they really made her right. They did it right.
I felt like they just handled it. It was perfect.
She handled her business.
Yeah.
There's no doubt about that, and she kind of brought them together too at one point. So she was sort of the catalyst for saying, okay, we all need to band together to fight this thing that's coming at us.
Mm-hmm.
And we can clearly see that this creature is feeding off of the energy of the world, and that's that's another image too that I got. So what else did you have here, Brian, too?
So Lex Luthor also makes a big deal. Like, at the end of the movie, they just kept like, right when you thought it was over, they kept like doing more scenes. Did you notice that?
Yes.
That felt like so weird to me, like on a like subconscious level of how you just know how a movie's supposed to go. It just felt weird. I felt like I was watching the director's cut or something.
Right.
And they had that scene where Batman shows up and Jesse Eisenberg's character Lex Luthor is in the cell with him, and Lex Luthor has this like monologue making sure Batman knows that he killed God. Once again, like they had to reiterate that. Like ladies and gentlemen, when you see in a movie or something like where they're constantly repeating something, it's to get past that subconscious threshold where it becomes like one with your essence of being, where you just understand it on a subconscious level without really even knowing it, that's ingrained in your head.
Right.
And that's how programming works. That's how mind control works.
That's how it works. And so people walked away from that thinking, here's the greatest character in
That's called co-creative consciousness.
right.
Lucifer kills God. Lucifer, God is dead. That's it.
Yeah,
that's it.
Pretty much
That's
it.
the message you come out of this movie with on a subconscious level. Also, you come out of this movie without a doubt understanding that God is alien.
Right.
Alien is God. They're the same thing.
Sort of goes into the narrative of, the fact that we as a human species were co-created by several different alien races. We are not the indigenous people of this planet. We may not even be completely what we would call human. We may be a hybrid of extraterrestrial, Martian, and a few other things.
Reptilian.
Yeah, reptilian for sure. They call it the reptilian brain for a reason. They don't call it the ape brain. They call it the reptilian brain.
Mm-hmm. So that's where a lot of our primal instincts come from.
Eat, sleep, hit it. Yeah. I almost said it.
Okay, so then there's a scene where Jesse Eisenberg's walking on the alien ship, and it looks very reminiscent of Prometheus.
Yes.
Which is another Illuminati religion movie. Like when that one came out, it became very clear. Okay, they're rolling out their agenda to the public consciousness, because that whole movie is about how there's this race of beings that came here in ancient times and they helped seed humanity, but that they are from the sacred blood of a specific ET race,
right?
And therefore they're special. They're the elite. They're the royals. We think we have the royal blood, and where that lineage and that bloodline comes from. So he's walking through the ship, and it just reminded me of that movie a lot. So I don't know if that was made to be on purpose. I felt like I was watching a scene straight from Prometheus. They spliced it in there. Didn't it kind of feel like that? Did. Like they wanted you to make that connection. Okay, so on another level with this, then we have the X-Men movie, which they did have a trailer for this, at least at the showing that I saw before this. So let's just talk about, there's 3 other movies that are coming out around, this month in April, and they're all basically have a very similar plot. There's Gods of Egypt, there's the X-Men movie, and then there's Captain America versus Iron Man, basically.
Right.
Is that actually what it's called, or?
I don't know. It's not called that. It's called.
It should be.
Yeah, it should be called that.
So we have all these heroes versus heroes, and that's very conflicting. And I think that that's totally being done on purpose. It's not a mistake that those movies are all coming out basically the same month.
Right.
And there's on one level, even if you don't go see the movies, you've seen the trailers.
Right.
If you watch TV at all, or you're on YouTube at all, you'll see him there, and it's good guy versus good guy, and that is so conflicting on a soul level to see that.
It really is, and I don't like it at all, and it makes me very unsettled.
Yeah,
it really does.
So on the grand stage, what's going on with that is that the elite love to put this co-creation programming into entertainment, usually with films, and right now we see it where good guy versus good guy, hero versus hero. And this is going to cause division. And I see this as them in maybe a desperate or very well orchestrated attempt to create division between us, or possibly even more directed towards the awakened community right now, the truth community.
Right.
Because if we're bickering with each other about who's right, this is right, this person's not, this person's a disinfo agent, this person's real, this person's not,
right,
this presidential candidate is right, this person's wrong, all that is, and it's clear we see that too with the presidential candidates right now.
God.
It's just, I feel like I'm watching a reality TV show anytime I hear about it, and I can't believe it's actually real. But we've been accustomed to that over the last 10 years. We've been smoothed into that, where it's we can't even tell what's real anymore, I feel like.
Exactly. And even so, and this is the thing, and I'll say this about the political race, or whatever we're calling it, and what Brian said is true. Because of the last 10 years of watching these horrendous people on these reality TV shows, which aren't even real at all, they're all filmed and it's all scripted, and there's no reality at all, other than the fact that they're not famous, most of them. And the fact that you have, a Donald Trump out there that's actually talking, that's just talking about whatever he wants and saying whatever horrendous thing he can say, and his poll numbers go up because we're so used to seeing people say horrendous things and not saying anything about it. But the morality of our country has been eviscerated, and so
where that's become appropriate.
Yeah, so that's okay. You know, little Wiley Kit and Wiley Cat, or whatever their names are from the Kardashians, the little ones. I can't remember what their names are. Something with a K. Anyway, one is they come out and they're very plain looking girls. Suddenly now they've all gone in and gotten plastic surgery to the point where they all look like these little sex kittens that we were talking about in our Illuminati music program show. And so that whole image is coming out, and so it's okay and appropriate for little girls to say to their mothers, "I want you to go out and let me get my lips plumped." You know, and they're 14 and 15 years old. And then they were even doing it on the internet at one point, where little girls were taking bottles and sucking their lips into the bottles to hold them in there so they would get swollen, and pulling them out so they would have these giant lips. And some girl really hurt herself, like tore her lips off or something, some horrible thing. Jesus. But that's the imagery and that's the energy that they're putting into our culture. And we have to stop it. We're the ones that need to say, you know what? Not doing this anymore.
On some level, we do kind of live in that like mean girl society, as shitty really as that is, where it's like, ladies, I mean, most guys don't care how big your lips are plumped.
Right.
If you're listening to the show and you don't know if that's like, I mean,
it's like if you can't eat a piece of chocolate because your lips are so swollen that you can't get your mouth open, that's not attractive.
No, and I don't care how big your kissy face is in your selfie. Where are you at with your heart? Where are you at with your spiritual development? Where are you at with your awareness of the world? That's like, at least that's what is attractive for me.
I mean, I had friends that we were watching, or from other countries, and they were watching Here Comes Honey Boo Boo or whatever her name is. And I don't watch any of these things, so I don't really have any reference for it because I can't stand them. But he called me and he said, "What's wrong with your country? Why are you making these people famous?"
Well, who is this again?
A friend of mine that lives in another part of the world. And he called me and he said, "We just got this show." And my friends and I sat down and watched it, and we were appalled. We said, if this is what America looks like, none of us want to go there.
Yeah.
And I said, that's the image that they're putting out because they want us to be, I mean, we're trailer trash, or we're materialistic, money hungry, crazy, and that sells newspapers, it sells TV shows, it sells products.
If you hang out with a celebrity, you are a celebrity. That whole like celebrity chasing culture.
It's ridiculous. And we live in a place where you can very easily walk into a Starbucks and see any one of these people on a daily basis. It's really not that hard. You don't care. So.
Okay, so let's get a little more into the other movies I was talking about with. Okay, so we have the X-Men movie coming out where there's a Sumerian god has come back to kill off the human race, basically, is like the plot of the movie. Like, he probably wants to kill the mutants too. And like, you actually see that in the trailer, them talking about like, oh, there were gods back in the Sumerian times. And like, that's how the trailer starts. And it's just like so reminiscent of like this Anunnaki god party line.
Right.
And so this guy, this mutant is basically like an Anunnaki god coming back to wreak havoc on the world. And it's like, hello, that's the Illuminati's religion. They're waiting for that god to come back. Like, that's one of their main things that they're waiting for. And it's just like, whoa. Okay, so we got these movies coming out to create division with the hero versus hero programming. And then we got them saying, here's our religion. Okay, let's move on to, then we have Gods of Egypt. God versus God. The movie's about the gods of Egypt. The Illuminati entire occult nature of their religion is based around Osiris, Horus, Set, Isis. Hello?
Right.
Hello?
Right.
Like, here's what I see happening. Okay? They're telling us their religion, and they're getting us ready. I think they're getting us ready for disclosure of them coming forward publicly on some level. There's some insiders. You agree with that?
Yeah.
There's some insiders who said that they were going to do this at the 2012 Olympics, and I think that actually would have been a great time. They just had everything set up from the stage, set up, design, like everything in the stadium. There was the the pyramids with the one eye symbolism all over Masonic floors and the stage design. You could do a whole show on that. There's people dancing, dressed up like with scales, looking like reptilians dancing around. Right. It was very visual and intense. They had like a Scottish Rite Masonic ritual on stage. So I do think that on some level that they're getting us ready subconsciously for them to come forward with their religion, and however they do it, is going to be very interesting to me. Yeah. And they're doing it with some of the biggest films coming out of the year. So so the question is, if they do that, are they going to come out and say, hey, public New World Order, boom, this is how we're doing it, and you guys are under it right now, and you're our slaves? Or are they going to say it and do it in a way where maybe celebrities come forward and say, hey, this is our new religion. This is what's cool and trendy now.
Right.
I could see that being very plausible. But then again, it just depends where they're at on their partial disclosure timeline and how far they're willing to go, how backed in the corner they are, or how free they feel to expose their agenda in whatever way that they feel fits their little magical conjuring mark or whatever they need to do to be right with their karma.
Right. And I mean, my sense of it is at this point that they're actually way backed into a corner. There's so many people that are awakening now, and I just see it, in my social media feeds. People are not as, sheepish as people say they are. They actually do have some idea. They may not know what it is they know, but they know something's wrong.
Yeah.
And it's, there's so much fear porn out there, and there's so much, you can watch it. You can go on YouTube and watch some of this stuff, and in an hour you're ready to crawl under your bed and never come out.
Here's another angle of this. They could be being strong-armed to disclose their religion because they're about to stand a huge public trial or something.
That's very possible too. There's a big
for crimes against humanity
right now to start to put some of these people on trial, and I think that I wholeheartedly agree that I think it needs to happen because they're more than happy to do it to other people.
Just like what Phil was saying earlier about some of the Illuminati not being all bad. Some of their defections are people who are actually in the Illuminati but may have connections to them to achieve greater places of power within the entertainment industry. Let's say someone like Zack Snyder. He may be, because we got to remember, if this censorship is happening, which we believe it is, it's going to be affecting people. And we got to consider that people who aren't actually in it, who are attached to it in a certain way in the entertainment business, are going to be swayed by that coming energy to maybe make more positive decisions. So this could be their way of saying, hey, your guys' time is up. We have a big enough budget and a big enough name to actually make this movie come out, and we're going to disclose your religion on here, Or there's so many different ways to look at it. Right. There's so many different ways. Somebody might say, hey, why would they ever let that come out? Blah, blah, blah. I mean, they could be losing their grip of control to let this come out. There's so many possibilities to this.
I think they are losing their grip on control. I really, really do. And I think that it's going a lot faster than they even anticipated. And like I said, everybody, a lot of people are waking up. I don't even like the term waking up. It's just becoming aware of the fact that the world that you live in is not what you thought it was. It's not really an awakening. It's more of an awareness. Because awakening assumes that somebody's asleep and they're just plodding along in their life trying to make stuff happen. And that's not necessarily true.
I agree. All right, so that's kind of, what I have as far as my review on the Batman vs. Superman movie. Phil, was there any closing remarks you wanted to add?
Not really. I just think that, when you go to see these films, you need to look at them through a different eye than you have in the past, and you'll see this imagery and you'll understand it now that you know a little bit more about what it is.
Yeah, I agree, and that's what we have to go. When you go into these films, go into it looking for these things, I think you might be really surprised at what you see. And when the X-Men movie comes out, I know we're going to be there, and we're probably going to have a whole nother episode on this because I could just see way more stuff happening that will just be incredible to see what they disclose in those movies.
Yes.
And then we have Gods of Egypt 2. When that comes out, we'll probably have a whole nother show on that as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. And if you like this video, leave us a comment. And we will see you guys next time. Thanks for watching.
Bye.